Hello everyone and welcome back. I know it has been almost 3 years since I last uploaded a video to my channel, but that was due to the fact that I was finishing high school, so I had to focus on revising for exams, doing homeworks, internal assessments, extended essays, and so on, so school stuff basically. And then I finished high school 2 years ago, and I entered college now, and I'm studying that right now in engineering. I am currently at the 6th semester out of 9 semesters. So I also didn't have the will or the lust to build something, actually record it, edit the video and upload it to YouTube. So I was actually quite lazy in that aspect. However, I am willing to get back to this hobby. And as you can see here right now, this is the last model I have built. This is the Airfix's 1:72 scale, the Havilland Mosquito, Night Fighter or Fighter Bomber Mark 6 and Mark 18. As you can see, I built the Night Fighter version, which is the one I liked the most. And before beginning the reviewing the model kit, the kit itself, I'll be reviewing first the instruction manual, as always. So this is the standard Airfix instruction manual, and there's the story of the Mosquito, a brief, short story. You can pause it there if you want to read it, and it continues this way with special instructions. As always, there's many languages for it, so now let's continue. So the first step, it's about the fuselage halves, building the fuselage with the cockpit and the pilots. I didn't actually use the pilots, and yeah, there's the tail wheel. I have to say something about the tail wheel. There's so many problems with it. Well, not so many, there's only one problem. There's such a huge gap between both pieces, actually. I will show you in a few moments. So yeah, continuing, the second step is actually deciding if you want to build the Mark II, Mark 6, or the Mark 18. The Mark 18 features a cannon. I don't know how big the cannon is. I don't have the number now. So yeah, you have to be careful that the holes for the gun cone are below the antenna. That's a mistake I did, which I will show you also in a while. Yeah, so actually for the Mark 18, you have to cut the nose off the fuselage. So yeah. So now the next step is to build the engine nacelles with the landing gear, choosing the different propellers for either Mark 6, Mark 2, or Mark 18, and also the wing assembly. This is the same way, but the other part, the other side. Then we got the assembly of the final aircraft, and the last step is to actually put some rockets for Mark 18, some fuel tanks, a bomb, or that's it. And you can decide. There's something that I have to say. You can't put both of them. It's either the fuel tank or the bomb, and the rockets, obviously. So the first paint scheme is obviously the Night Fighter, which I really loved it. That's why I built it. And then we have the Mark 18, which actually uses 2 colors basically, Humboldt 30 and 64. So yes. And finally the Mark 6, which is from the Royal Australian Air Force, completely in silver instead of being black. It's silver, obviously, with Australian markings. So now the model kit. The box I won't review as it's really known. So now we have the kit here. Let it focus. So here's the aircraft. Let it focus. Give me a second. There we have. So I had a few issues with it. One of it was the tail wheel, as you can see there. Yeah, there's the tail wheel. There's a huge gap between both of the pieces. There in the middle, you can see it right there. There's a huge gap I had to fill with Tamiya putty. Yeah, that's one. Now the second one was the gun cone, which I like to call, which is this piece. I forgot to put the gun piece inside the cone before gluing it, so right until the end I had to cut the guns out and put them in the cone one by one. So there's a problem, and I also misplaced it. Instead of being completely horizontal, I put it kind of in a diagonal. So there's an issue there right there, a mistake I made. And yeah, that was two of the most noticeable mistakes right now. Alright, so I had quite a nightmare building the landing gear. It's a bit tricky to put together. There's an X-like piece that goes in between both landing gear legs, which I didn't put on both sides because it got in the way of the wheel, so I didn't glue it on. So it was quite a bit tricky part, the landing gears, but it's not that you can't do it, just a bit tricky. So I actually brushed it with the airbrush with Humbrol Matte 33 matte black, which turned out really cool. I will show you later some pictures about it that I took. And then I applied a gloss coat of Humbrol clear gloss varnish. And then I applied the decals, which you can see here. I got some problems with this decal on this side. As you can see, there's a mold here, a molded thing. I don't know what it is. I had some issues with the decals there. I had to use lots of decal fix to fix it. And I finally got it. It's a tricky part. I should recall that. And yeah. And then I applied again a second gloss coat to seal the decals off, and finally a matte varnish coat. However, I didn't use the Humbrol one because with some previous experience I had, the matte varnish tend to be cloudy, and so instead of being transparent, it was becoming white. So I bought this rattle can from Plastic Mate for plastic and something matte varnish. This was actually a pretty good buy because the Tamiya one, which is exactly the same, is here in Mexico costs around 290 pesos, which is way too expensive. And I bought this for 40 pesos. So yeah, and then I applied a coat of it, and it turned out really, really cool, as you can see here. Actually, some kind of interesting data is that this aircraft was shot down, I think, in November 1942. It didn't return from its 12th mission, I think. I should reread that part, but yeah, here's the Mosquito. It's actually one of my favorite aircraft. Just look how stylish it looks. Spectacular. Something else I should say is that I used filler between the fuselage halves, so it was a more smoother surface. I have to practice more that area because as you can see there's still a little gap, which has to be corrected in the next few builds. So yeah, this is the Mosquito aircraft from Airfix in 1:72 scale. Something else I should say is that on the gun con, also on this part, I used also filler. So because there was also a gap, quite a noticeable gap. There's a mistake on the instructions. It says that the propeller tips should be painted in yellow. However, I've seen a few pictures of the real aircraft, night fighter aircraft, and the propeller tips are painted in black, not in yellow. There's something to notice, especially for night fighters, yeah. The other two aircraft, the Mark 6 and Mark 18, do have yellow on the propeller plates, yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and see you on the next video.